Okay, this is going to finish up section 1-2. Before I go on to finding equations of lines, I'm going to touch on parallel lines and perpendicular lines. If two lines are parallel, they have the same slope. So let's say, in this example, I have one line that goes through the point -2, 9 and 1, 3. And the other line goes through the points -4, 10 and 3, -4. Question is, are the lines parallel? So just imagine you've got L1 over here and L2 over there. L1 has these points on them. What we want to do, if this is L1, we want to find the slope of that line. We've done this enough times. It's y2 minus y1. y2 is 3, 3 minus 9. And on the bottom, it's going to be 1 minus -2. That's going to be -6 over +3, and we get -2 for our slope. Okay, that's for the first line. Let's look at the second line. M2, the slope of the second line, using the formula we have, would be -4 minus 10 and 3 minus -4. -4 minus 10 is -14. And 3 minus a negative, that becomes plus. 3 plus 4 is 7. And -14 over 7 is -2. So you'll notice the slopes came up to be the same. That means L1, I'm going to put a symbol in here. That means parallel. L1 is parallel to L2. So that's how you check to see if lines are parallel, if you know some points that are on there. Okay, fine. Let's talk about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. So let's talk about negative reciprocals. I'm going to put another piece of paper in here. Negative reciprocals. So if one number is 4, it's negative reciprocal. Reciprocal means flip it over, so that makes it 1/4. And when it says negative, that makes it -1/4. These are always opposite in signs. If this is 2, that's -1/2. If this is 1/3, then when I flip that over, that becomes +3. 3 over 1 or 3. That's positive, this one's negative. Okay, if this was -1/2, the negative reciprocal of that, we flip it over, that's 2 over 1, and it's positive. That's negative, that makes that one positive. Okay, or if this is -7, this would be -1/7. Or if this is 2/3, then over here it'd be -2/3. So all of these get paired up. They're negative reciprocals of each other. Okay, now we're going to use that concept here. So going back to the perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So in this example, it says if one line goes through the point 1, 2, and 3, 6, I copied them down there, and the other line goes through the point 4, 2, and 7, 1, which I've copied here, are the lines perpendicular? So we'll do the same thing we did in the other example for parallel. We're going to find M1. M1's the slope of L1. That's 6 minus 2 over 3 minus 1. That's 4 over 2, which is 2 over 1. The other line L2 has a slope, M2, that would be equal to 1 minus 2 over 7 minus 4. That's negative 1 over 3. So we're talking about perpendicular. You're going to say, are these negative reciprocals of each other? Well, if this was 2, this had to be what? Not negative 1/3, negative 1/2 would have worked. Or if this is negative 1/3, then this would have had to have been 3 on that side. So you look at those, you say they are not negative reciprocals. Therefore, they are not perpendicular. When we were looking at the other one, remember I gave you that symbol? Put it back in here. For parallel. If these would have been perpendicular, you would have said L1. And the perpendicular sign would have looked like this. But since they're not perpendicular, if you put a line through it, that means not perpendicular. Okay, I wanted to touch on that. Okay, now we're going to start talking about finite equations of lines. But before I do that, I want to go back and talk a little bit about there's 3 forms for the equations of lines. I run out of space. Okay, here's the one that you use most of the time. It's called slope-intercept. This is nothing new. I'm just putting in perspective for you. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We know m is the slope and b is the intercept. Number 2 is general form. Sometimes called standard. Different books, it goes back and forth. I always have to look at the book and see what they use there, but it's either standard or general. They mean the same thing. But that is ax plus by equals c. And some books bring the c over here. Now, when you come up with answers, you're going to leave your answers in one of those 2 forms. What's the difference in the forms? Well, I like to look at it like this. This form is your formal form, just like you have a name. You know, your name might be, let's say, Robert Smith. But nobody calls you Robert. They call you Bobby, or they call you Bob. Okay, so Bob is kind of your casual name. That's what this is. This is your casual, okay, and that's your formal name. Okay, think of it that way. That might help. The casual way, when we put it there, this is easier because it's easy to graph. Why do they have this form? Well, there's some computer applications. You guys probably won't get to it, but later on, you can input A, B, and C, and you can come up with some different conics, as they like to say. Okay, now here's the third one, and we just touched on this in the last lesson. It's called point-slope form. Point-slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So obviously m is the slope, and the x1, y1 is usually some point that we know is on the line. For most of what we're going to do in this next group, we're going to find equations of lines. You're always going to start with this, but you'll end with one of the others. Probably that one, because it's easy for you. Okay, let's take a look what we got then. Okay, now this first one's real easy. I got 4 examples. Find the equation of a line with m equals 2 and goes through the point 1, 3. So you're going to start with that formula for point slope. Almost all of these you're going to start with this. That's what point slope's for. So it's going to be y minus, and here's your x1, y1. I told you that would be the point they give you. So y1 is 3, so I'm going to put y minus 3 over here. The slope is 2. And it's going to be x minus, and what was the x value? 1. Now we've got an equation. Let's simplify it. Y minus 3 equals, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to distribute over here, so 2 times x, and 2 times negative 1 is minus 2. And when I add the 3 over there, I get y equals 2x. If I take negative 2 plus 3, that's going to be plus 1. And that is your answer. That's in slope-intercept form. It was not very hard. Example 2. Before we go on to example 2, I want you to see if you can tell what the difference is. What makes this one a little bit tougher than that one? They give you something here, and we got to find it down here, and it has to be slope. Down here, they're giving you 2 points. Up here is easy because they gave me the slope, okay? So we're going to have to find the slope first. So m is equal to, I'm simply going to use these 2 points here, doesn't matter what order, 4 minus 1. So I consider this y2. That makes that y1. If that's y2, that's x2. So 3 minus 2 on the bottom. So that's going to be 3 over 1, which is 3. Okay, now we're ready to get going. Y minus y1 equals m times x2 minus x1. Three is going to go there. I'm going to have y minus, now what am I going to put there? You've really got a choice. You could use this point, 2, 1, or you could use this point, 3, 4. I usually look and say which one's easier. If that's the case, that would be this number here. So I'm going to use 2, 1. The y value is 1, so it's y minus 1 equals 3 times, I don't know why I put the 2 in there, I'm sorry, minus, what was the y value, or the x value? 2. So y minus 1 equals 3x minus, I'm distributing here, 6. Y will be equal to 3x. I'm going to take that 1, I'm going to add it to the other side, so negative 6 plus 1 is going to be minus 5. And that is your answer. But it all starts with this point slope form. Okay, they get harder. Example 3 says, find the equation of a line parallel to the line 4x plus 2y equals 8 that goes through the point 5, 6. Okay, so there's x1, y1. Okay, so they give us some line, we'll call it L1, and it's 4x plus 2y equals 8. Now, I'm going to put this in slope-intercept form. So the 4x is going to go the other side, so I got 2y equals, 4x comes over here, becomes negative, plus 8. So y will be equal to get rid of the 2, you're going to divide. So 2 goes into this, that would be negative 2x plus, and 2 goes into 8, 4. Now, I showed you what I did. I didn't explain why I did it. Can you guess why I put it in slope-intercept form? I put it in slope-intercept form so I could get the slope. So this was line 1. That tells me M1 is equal to -2. I want the equation of the second line. Well, if M1's -2 and they are parallel, that means the slopes are the same, so M2, the slope of the other one's going to be -2 also. Okay, now we're ready to go to work. So I got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Slope's -2, so I'm going to plug that right here. On the left it's y minus, okay, it went through the point 5, comma 6, so 6 is the y value, so y minus 6, and over here it's going to be x minus 5. Now we got to do is simplify. Y minus 6 is equal to, I'm going to distribute, that becomes -2x. -2 times -5 becomes plus 10. And to get rid of the 6, I'm going to add 6, so y equals -2x. When I take the 6 over here and add it to the 10, that becomes plus 16. And that becomes L2, the line I was looking for. You don't have to necessarily put the notation there. I'm just doing it to help you follow along with what I'm doing. Okay, one more example. Hope I don't run out of time here. Okay, so we're going to start out with 4x plus 2y equals 8. I want to find the equation of the line perpendicular to this line that goes through the point 5, 6. It's actually the same problem except it's parallel there and it's perpendicular here. I'm going to do the same thing here I did up on top, even though I already know the answer. 2y will be -4x plus 8. So y is equal to negative, divided by 2 becomes 2x and 4. So this is L2, or L1 I mean. So if this is L1, I can look at that and say, well, what's M1? M1 is equal to -2. If M1 is -2, what's M sub 2? Well, since it's perpendicular, we're talking negative reciprocals. So the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. Since that's negative, this is going to be positive. 1/2 is what I wanted. Okay, y minus y1. All these problems started the same way. Equals m times x minus x1. Once you have what you need, they all start the same place. So this is y minus 6 equals, we found the slope to be 1/2, and x minus 5. Let's clear the parentheses. Y minus 6, I'm going to have 1/2 x. So I'm taking times the first one, I take it times the second, that becomes minus 5/2. So y would be equal to 1/2 x. I'm going to add 6 over here. I come down to the bottom. So I had -5/2, and I'm going to add 6. When you do that, you got to have a common denominator. So that becomes, common denominator is going to be 2. So think of that 6 as 12 over 2. 12 over 2, 6 over 1, or 6. That gives you 7 over 2. That's what we have here. My answer, y equals 1/2 x plus 7/2. Okay, so most of what I was trying to show you here is finding equations of lines given something. Okay. that's going to finish section 1, 2, and keep working.